Greetings and welcome back to room 303 in freshman English, and we're back again in these intro pages 16, 17 of your textbook. And this is a very short read, but we're now going to introduce ourselves to the close reading of the central idea in nonfiction. I hope you're with me on page 16. The central idea is the author's main point in a work. We're going to use this term thesis, so write that one down. Stated the central idea in some nonfiction, again, the author expresses the central idea in a direct statement, or you can have an implied central idea where, for example, it's not actually stated directly. There are different types of supporting details that we want to concentrate on. Facts, you could see it in the chart at the bottom of page 16. Facts, statistics, expert testimony, examples, observation, personal experience, anecdotes, little stories, brief stories, and analogies. Now what we're going to do is turn on page 17 to a very brief model here of a work of nonfiction. Right? We're going to be working with, read it with me at the top of page 17, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt delivered this address known as the Four Freedoms speech, so write that down. This is the Four Freedoms speech at the beginning of his second term in office. Although the United States was not yet involved in World War II, the speech anticipates the ideals for which the nation would fight in that conflict. So let's say three things about this speech really quickly in setup. One, this is from 1941. Two, it's called the Four Freedoms speech for reasons that will become more clearly aware for us in a second. And finally, this is right before the United States decides to enter the Second World War with, of course, the bombing of a base in Hawaii called Pearl Harbor, right? Now, let's go to it. And as we work, notice these comments on the right-hand side, comments 25, 26, and 27. Let's read. For there is nothing mysterious about the foundations of a healthy and strong democracy. Right away, notice our observation. Roosevelt begins this section of his address with the observation that the elements of a healthy and strong democracy are those people intuitively understand. The basic things expected by our people of their political and economic systems are simple. They are. Now this is what, again, all Americans assume are the acceptable things. Let's look at them. Equality of opportunity for youth and for others. Jobs for those who can work. Security for those who need it. The ending of special privilege for the few. The preservation of civil liberties for all. The enjoyment of the fruits of scientific progress in a wider and constantly rising standard of living. These are the simple, basic things that must never be lost sight of in the turmoil and unbelievable complexity of our modern world. The inner and abiding strength of our economic and political systems is dependent upon the degree to which they fulfill these expectations. Many subjects connected with our social economy call for immediate improvement as examples. Now notice this list of examples here, number 26 on page 17. Several examples of how to improve the social economy, right? We should bring more citizens under the coverage of old age pensions and unemployment insurance. We should widen the opportunities for adequate medical care. We should plan a better system by which persons deserving or needing gainful employment may obtain it. I have called for, finally, to finish this cutting, I've called for personal sacrifice. And then, I am assured of the willingness of almost all Americans to respond to that call. Notice this expert testimony comment. Roosevelt's expression of confidence in the American people carries all the authority of his office. This statement supports his central idea that the nation can meet the challenges of the day. Now let's do a quick annotation here at levels 2 and 3. At 2A, what for you is the most important message or theme here? Notice the idea is that there are certain things that make all of us kind of commonly Americans, right? We're all Americans if we understand the need for these things. Equality of opportunity for youth, you guys, as well as everybody else. Jobs for those who can work. Security for those who need it, right? The ending of special privilege for the few. That's an interesting one. Jot down the one that for you is the most interesting. At 2B, notice the rhetoric here. He will use the examples, the listing, yes, to try and make his points clear. Now, hey, make a point to yourself here at 2B. This is a speech, right? So F.D.R. is going to need to be very clear and articulate so that people listening both to him live as well as on radio of the day can understand exactly what it is that he is saying. Now, of course, let's point this out. F.D.R. already understood that that America was trending towards war and conflict. So notice the way that he ends this part of the speech by saying, I am assured of the willingness of almost all Americans to respond to that call. This idea that he's going to solicit the help of all Americans in this great challenge. Of course, at 3A, we think of other speeches that come to mind. In our time as freshmen, we will study, for example, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. Let's put that one down as a really important speech, and the ways in which those speeches, these two speeches, will be similar and different. Later in your high school career, you'll study a number of speeches by John F. Kennedy, for example, and speeches by Abraham Lincoln. Presidents in American thought have obviously had a very great influence through their speech giving, and so we'll want to study it. Finally, at 3B, we will want to make the observations that are personal. Of all the ones listed there, which one do you consider to still be the most important? Do you feel like America, since 1941, has become more increasingly democratic? That is to say, a stronger democracy or a weaker democracy? And why do you feel that? Well, there you go, an introduction to how to read closely when we're playing the game of studying for a central idea in nonfiction.